Indigo by Satyajit Ray, Part 3. It was 10:30 when I went to bed after dining on Sukhan's coarse chapatis and urad ka dal. I had sent a telegram to Pramod from Calcutta saying that I would arrive this afternoon. He would naturally wonder what had happened, but it was useless to think of that now. All I could do now was congratulate myself on having found a shelter, and that too without much trouble. In future I would do as Bhola Babu had advised. I had learned a lesson, and lessons learned the hard way are not forgotten easily. I put the lantern in the adjoining bathroom. The little light that seeped through the door, which I had kept slightly ajar, was enough. Usually I find it difficult to sleep with a light on, and yet I did not extinguish the light even though what I badly needed now was sleep. I was worried about my car, which I had left standing on the road, but it was certainly safer to do so in a village than in the city. The sound of drizzle had stopped. The air was now filled with the croaking of frogs and the shrill chirping of crickets. From my bed in that ancient bungalow, in this remote village, the city seemed to belong to another planet. Indigo. I thought of the play by Dinobandhu Mitra, Neel Darpon, The Mirror of Indigo. As a college student, I had watched a performance of it in a theatre on Cornwall Street. I didn't know how long I had slept when a sound suddenly awakened me. Something was scratching at the door. The door was bolted. Must be a dog or a jackal, I thought, and in a minute or so the noise stopped. I shut my eyes in an effort to sleep, but the barking of a dog put an end to my efforts. This was not the bark of a stray village dog, but the unmistakable bay of a hound. I was familiar with it. 2 houses away from us in Mungir lived Mr. Martin. He had a hound which bayed just like this. Who on earth kept a pet hound here? I thought of opening the door to find out, as the sound seemed quite near, but then I thought, why bother? It was better to get some more sleep. What time was it now? A faint moonlight came in through the window. I raised my left hand to glance at the wristwatch and gave a start. My wristwatch was gone. And yet, because it was an automatic watch, I always wore it to bed. Where did it disappear? And how? Were there thieves around? What would happen to my card then? I felt beside my pillow for my torch and found it gone too. I jumped out of bed, knelt on the floor and looked underneath it. My suitcase too had disappeared. My head started spinning. Something had to be done about it. I called out, "Chaukidar!" There was no answer. I went to the door and found that it was still bolted. The window had bars. So how did the thief enter? As I was about to unfasten the bolt, I glanced at my hand and experienced an odd feeling. Had whitewash from the wall got onto my hand, or was it white powder? Why did it look so pale? I had gone to bed wearing a vest. Why then was I now wearing a long-sleeved silk shirt? I felt a throbbing in my head. I opened the door and went out into the veranda. "Chaukidar!" The word that came out was spoken with the unmistakable accent of an Englishman. And where was the Chaukidar? And where was his little cottage? There was now a wide open field in front of the bungalow. In the distance was a building with a high chimney. The surroundings were unusually quiet. They had changed, and so had I. I came back into the bedroom in a sweat. My eyes had got used to the darkness. I could now clearly make out the details. The bed was there, but it was covered with a mosquito net. I hadn't been using one. The pillow too was unlike the one I had brought with me. This one had a border with frills. Mine didn't. The table and the chair stood where they did, but they had lost their aged look. The varnished wood shone even in the soft light. On the table stood not a lantern, but a kerosene lamp with an ornate shade. There were other objects in the room which gradually came into view. A pair of steel trunks in a corner, a folding bracket on the wall from which hung a coat, an unfamiliar type of headgear, and a hunting crop. Below the bracket, standing against the wall, was a pair of galoshes. I turned away from the objects and took another look at myself. Till now I had only noticed the silk shirt. Now I saw the narrow trousers and the socks. I didn't have shoes on, but saw a pair of black boots on the floor by the bed. I passed my right hand over my face and realized that not only my complexion, but my features too had changed. I didn't possess such a sharp nose, nor such thin lips or narrow chin. I felt the hair on my head and found that it was wavy, and that there were sideburns which reached below my ears. In spite of my surprise and terror, I suddenly felt a great urge to find out what I looked like. But where to find a mirror? I strode towards the bathroom, opened the door with a sharp push, and went in. There had been nothing there but a bucket. Now I saw a metal bathtub and a mug kept on a stool beside it. The thing I was looking for was right in front of me, an oval mirror fixed to a dressing table. I looked into it, but the person reflected in it was not me. By some devilish trick, I had turned into a 19th century Englishman, with a sallow complexion, blonde hair, and light eyes from which shone a strange mixture of hardness and suffering. How old would the Englishman be? Not more than 30, but it looked as if either illness or hard work, or both, had aged him prematurely. I went closer and had a good look at my face. As I looked, a deep sigh rose from the depths of my heart. The voice was not mine. The sigh, too, expressed not my feelings, but those of the Englishman. What followed made it clear that all my limbs were acting of their own volition, and yet it was surprising that I, Aniruddha Bose, was perfectly aware of the change in identity. But I didn't know if the change was permanent, or if there was any way to regain my lost self.